Afternoon and welcome to this first session in our new series, Where Are the Interns Now? My name is Ellie Loser and I'm the Research and External Engagement Officer at the John Smith Center and your host for the next 30 minutes. Our mission at the John Smith Center is to make the positive case for politics and public service. We do that in three ways. Through research, by studying the relationship between the public and their public servants, through our various internship and development programs designed to break down the barriers people are facing accessing public life, and through advocacy with public events such as this one. We are also currently celebrating our 10th year anniversary with a host of events such as this one. Our Where Are the Interns Now series will shine a light on our alumni, their career journeys, and how the John Smith Center supported them on their way. To kick off this series, we are joined by my colleague Stuart Gray, who used to be one of our Parliamentary Internship Programme interns. Stuart, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ellie, and I'm very much looking forward to taking part.
Wonderful. Just to start us off, could you just introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us about your time at the John Smith Center?
So my name is Stuart Gray, and I was lucky enough to participate in the John Smith Centre's Parliamentary Internship back in 2020, and it gave me insight into the day-to-day responsibilities of a Scottish parliamentarian. I was assigned to work in the office of Ross Greer, MSP of the Scottish Greens, and I gained a variety of experience doing different things such as casework, dealing with constituents, researching proposals, and just gaining a much better understanding of how government works in the whole legislative process. So it was a fantastic opportunity to be able to take part. It really contributed to both my personal and professional development, and I'm just very grateful to have had the experience.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a bit about what you've done since the internship finished?
So I completed my internship when I was a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Glasgow. I studied politics and social policy, and I still had my final year of university to go through, which also coincided with the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was a very strange time having to adjust to online lectures and remote tutorials and that kind of thing. But after I completed my studies, I returned to my home region of Dumfries and Galloway in the south of Scotland, and I worked a variety of jobs there before I eventually found work with the local authority, Dumfries and Galloway Council. And when I started there, not long after the war in Ukraine started, it seems that whenever I start new jobs, it always seems to coincide with major global events. But I got drafted into helping the response to the refugee crisis in Ukraine, because we had large numbers of Ukrainian displaced people arriving in Scotland as a result of some new visa routes that had been created called the Super Sponsor Scheme and the Homes for Ukraine scheme. So it was my job to provide sort of comprehensive resettlement support to Ukrainians who had arrived in Scotland. And that could be things such as, opening bank accounts, registering with doctors and enrolling children in school. Ukrainians, when they initially arrived, they were placed in temporary hotel accommodation. So it was also my job as well to help Ukrainian guests find more long-term housing solutions. And, it was a great work experience, challenging in many ways for sure, because I think some of the guests that I worked with, I think moving to a different country at the best of times is often a very stressful and complicated thing, but moving to a different country in the context of, fleeing war is doubly difficult. So I always had to be conscious of that. But it was a hugely rewarding job, gave me a lot of skills and really strengthened my belief in sort of public service and helping other people. And it was just fantastic to see Ukrainian guests who, when they first arrived, they had, been living under aerial bombardment. They'd made a long journey across Europe to arrive to the UK. And so when they got here, they were disorientated, they were vulnerable, they were not sure about what life would hold in a different country. But by the end of it, the transformation was incredible. People were speaking English, people had jobs, the children were doing very well in school, and they had really managed to put down roots in the local community. So that aspect of it was hugely fulfilling. I think as well, it was a very interesting job role because I think as we're all aware, the political climate in the UK at the moment regarding migration and asylum is becoming quite polarising. We've seen some legislation coming through Parliament, such as the Illegal Migration Act and the Rwanda Bill, and a whole kind of tightening of rules regarding income thresholds and that kind of thing. So the fact that I was able to work in an environment where we actually positively celebrated refugees and welcomed the contribution that they made to Scotland, I found that very satisfying. So I did that for about a year and a half before I started to kind of think more long term and try to pursue employment that was more aligned with my career goals and my qualifications. And I also had my sights set on returning to Glasgow, because I first came to Glasgow when I was an 18-year-old student, and just absolutely fell in love with the city. It was a real contrast to the area that I grew up in, because I'm from a very small town in Scotland. So I was very keen to return to Glasgow. And fortunately, a job position came up at the John Smith Centre, and I applied, and I'm very happy to be here today. I serve as the centre's administrator, so my roles and responsibilities are quite varied. I help oversee some of our internship and development programmes, such as the Parliamentary Internship Programme, Minority Ethnic Emerging Leaders Award, John Smith Public Service Award, and our newest development initiative, which I'm sure you'll share some more information on later, the Mayoral Internship Programme in Greater Manchester. So very happy to be here at the John Smith Centre.
Thank you. That is already quite a journey that you've taken just over the past few years, especially, as you say, with all these global events happening. I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit more later on when we talk about skills and things that you have gained from the internship. But for now, I could just take you back, if you can remember, can you share with us why did you apply for the internship program in the first place? What motivated you?
Well, I applied for the internship programme initially because I already had a bit of a pre-existing interest in John Smith. John Smith was someone who, I'm 25 years old, so John Smith's career was slightly before my time, but nonetheless, I'm still very much aware of John Smith's legacy and his contribution to UK public life. And, he was an exemplary Member of Parliament and a great Scot, and someone who had real vision and leadership for the country. So I was interested from that perspective. I also, as well, had quite a long and pre-existing interest in politics. I was just fascinated with how government worked and the whole legislative process. And, I loved modern studies at high school. That was my favourite subject. I had some very supportive and encouraging teachers. I was also active in my local branch of the Scottish National Party. So when I seen the opportunity to get involved with the John Smith Centre internship, I thought it would be a good way to sort of bridge my interest in politics with also getting some practical experience. As well, I would also say that when you take a look at the John Smith Centre and in terms of its sort of mission and values, it very much aligned with my own values in terms of making the positive case for politics. I think, obviously, whilst I'm cognizant of some of the issues that we see in Scottish politics at the moment, this year is the 25th anniversary of Scottish devolution. And within that 25 years, I think we really can point to some real social policy developments and successes that have made a real tangible difference to the lives of the people of Scotland. So very much supported the John Smith Centre in their mission to promote politics. I think as well, breaking down barriers is another huge part of it, because there is a perception that politics is perhaps a closed club. It's quite exclusive, and unless you went to an elite school or if you have family connections, then it's very difficult to break through into politics and public life. Whereas I think the John Smith Centre's internships really do give people from traditionally underrepresented backgrounds just the opportunity to gain some experience and get a foothold into that whole realm.
Wonderful. Just while you're talking there about the centre and its values and the internship programs, you've obviously been on an internship program, that's why you're here, but you're also in the unique position that you're now on the other side of it, and you're now supporting interns on their journeys in our programs. So how would you say your own internship has helped you to prepare for this role that you are fulfilling now?
I think it's helped prepare me in many ways. So, for example, when I'm supporting our current intake of interns, I myself have been there. I understand what an exciting and also challenging opportunity it can be. So, I'm aware of what motivates the interns to take part. So, if anyone ever needs, support or advice, I feel like I'm in a good position to offer it and share my own experiences of the programme, so that people can really make the most of it. And that's the biggest thing that I would emphasise. I think it is an invaluable opportunity, and people should really, work hard. Don't be afraid to ask for different things. They should take any opportunities that come their way, and they should set very high expectations for themselves as well.
Wonderful. We will continue to chat in a bit more detail about skills that you learned and about our upcoming internship programs in a couple of minutes. But before we do so, I would like to play a short video for everybody to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. And we're back. If you want to know more about our anniversary and keep up to date with events that we have planned, such as this one, please sign up to our newsletter. The link is shown on your screens just now. Stuart, back to you. Let's dive a bit more into your internship experience. We've already heard a bit about your kind of journey from the internship to where you are now. I'm really keen now to dig a bit more into what you learned during your time as an intern. So could you maybe talk about a little bit, did you face any challenges during your internship, anything you weren't prepared for, and how did you overcome them?
Well, in terms of challenges, I should preface this by saying that any challenges that I did have, were very adequately supported. I don't think the people who support you, both at the John Smith Centre and in the constituency office environment, they know that this is something that's new and unfamiliar to you. So they really want you to make the best and the most of your experience. But in terms of challenges, the thing that I found most challenging was just getting my head around all the different kind of processes that were involved, and dealing with the kind of breadth of casework that came through. Some of it you might consider like relatively trivial local issues, such as bins being collected and fly tipping, and others were more sort of important nationally, such as asylum or social security or something like that. But as well, it did help me in my own sort of political education, in the sense that I perhaps went into the internship naively assuming that Parliament and being a politician was easier than it was. But just learning about the different stages of consultation and committee stages and stakeholder engagement, and then amendments, and then passing a bill into law, just all those different stages that I hadn't really properly considered before. It was quite challenging to wrap my head around that. But as I said, the staff and everyone was incredibly supportive and helped you understand that along the way.
It's really encouraging to hear, and obviously, as you say, it is a learning curve. So it's lovely to hear that how you've managed that in your own time. Can you reflect just a little bit more in general about the skills that you learned during the internship and how they still help you today, if they do?
I think skills that I learned, one of the most important one I would say was communication skills, both written and verbal. In the kind of office environment of a politician, you do deal with a lot of different stakeholders from different backgrounds, whether they are individuals or whether they represent a community group or a business, or whether you're interacting with other parliamentarians. It kind of taught me to learn to sort of finesse my language and, take a look at the techniques that you use when depending on the audience that you're talking to. I think as well, a skill that's proven really valuable to me is when you're doing the John Smith Parliamentary Internship, you are placed with a politician who may not necessarily share your own worldview. So it's a great opportunity to learn with someone who has different experiences to you, different opinions to you, and navigating that in a way that that encourages mutual respect and civilized disagreement, because I think that is really important at the moment, and I think it's especially relevant to students and young people, because there is a lot of commentary at the moment that perhaps young people exist in echo chambers and political bubbles and perhaps aren't sufficiently exposed to different viewpoints. So I think the John Smith Centre gives you a really valuable experience in working with someone from a different background to your own.
Really good to hear. That kind of leads us quite nicely into my next question, which you've kind of covered a little bit already, but could you elaborate on the question, how did the internship help you grow professionally?
It helped me grow professionally, I think, because it instilled within me, a really deep understanding and appreciation for the role of public service. Public service is about helping other people, and it's about making yourself available to support other people. And that kind of ethos that I learned during my internship, I very much used in subsequent roles that I did. For example, I've been in I've worked jobs where I've had to support people who've been made unemployed, and then I've had to help navigate them through the complexities of claiming universal credit, which, is often very stressful. Like, there's a 5-week deferral period between claiming universal credit and actually receiving your first payment. And within that 5 weeks, a lot of people can fall through the cracks. And, that's very stressful and challenging to deal with. But the John Smith Centre Parliamentary Internship experience sort of gave me the sense of duty and responsibility and the belief in helping others, and gave me a very strong sense of purpose, I would say, which has been a really valuable skill in my professional life.
That sounds great. If we might have some students watching here who are thinking about potentially applying for an internship, or maybe some current interns from our programs, do you have any advice for them? Anyone who's thinking about it, or maybe someone who's just finished an internship with us?
I think if you're thinking about applying for the John Smith Centre Parliamentary Internship, my advice would be absolutely go for it if you think that it would benefit you, and it's something that you're interested in. I've mentioned in this interview some of the kind of professional skills that I've gained from it, but I'd also say on a personal level that when I took part, I submitted my application, and then when I was invited to actually participate, it was hugely encouraging and improved my self-confidence and sort of my belief in my own abilities and my resilience. So it's not only a professional benefit, but certainly there's huge gains to be made in personal development by going through the programme as well. In terms of people who have just completed the programme, something that I would possibly bear in mind, and something that I feel like has actually benefited myself, is to kind of take some time out to actually gain some skills and experience in an arena different to politics, whether that be, working in a business or doing a customer-facing role or doing hands-on work with a charity or the third sector. I think it's those kind of things that give you more kind of real-world experience and a better appreciation of some of the issues and complex issues that people face in their daily lives and that politics seeks to address.
Some really good advice right there. I just want to say to our audience, please, if you have any questions to Stuart or to myself, to just pop them in the chat, and we'll hopefully get around to answering them. Some of you might also be wondering when the next round of applications for our Parliamentary Internship Programme will open, and you are in luck. Applications are about to open in the next couple of weeks, so make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and to our social media channels to make sure you don't miss the official announcement. We would also like to alert you just briefly, as Stuart mentioned there, to another development program we have just launched, the Mayoral Internship Programme for University of Glasgow honours level students. So this is a 2-week full-time internship with Andy Barnum, Mayor of of Greater Manchester. And the deadline for this program for the application is the 30th of June. So there's still a bit of time to get your application in. The link is below just now as well on the screen. Wonderful. We've got a couple of comments in, and they're very lovely comments. I'll just ask you a couple more questions, Stuart, if you're happy to answer a couple more.
Of course.
You have already mentioned a lot around professional development. Can you talk a bit about the kind of professional network that the internship has allowed you to build?
So I think one of the most valuable things about the John Smith Centre's Parliamentary Internship, and indeed other development programmes that we run, is that after completing your internship, you become a member of the John Smith Centre Alumni Network. And that enables you to keep in touch with other people who are in the same boat as you, who have come through the development programmes. And, the John Smith Centre hosts events throughout the calendar year, events and functions where we can catch up with people who have the same experience of us. And, it's just quite remarkable, actually, looking back now at the breadth of knowledge and experience and expertise that we now have within the John Smith Centre Alumni Network. We have people working and pursuing very successful and promising career pathways in a whole variety of areas of public life, whether that be politics or the civil service or media or law or academia or the third sector. So the John Smith Centre Alumni Network is definitely a great way to network and keep in touch with people.
And just a couple of final questions, if you don't mind me asking, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have any idea?
It's always quite a difficult question to answer. I know for sure that I'm very much interested in immigration and asylum particularly. So if I could make a contribution in the field of, policy development or public advocacy or community engagement, something like that in that field, that's something that I would very much like to do. I also incidentally see myself very much in Scotland. I'm very interested in Scottish politics, Scottish social policy, Scottish law, and it's Scotland where I want to kind of contribute to and help grow if possible.
Something that has changed through your internship? Has that had any impact on where you want to go with your life, or has it always been like this?
It's certainly influenced it in some ways. I think perhaps when I was younger and just started getting interested in politics, I perhaps had a vision of elected politics as a route that I wanted to go down, whereas now I very much see myself perhaps in a background role, more formulating policy rather than being sort of actively on the front line of politics, because that's still a very valuable space to be, being able to shape and influence the direction of the country. And I think that ties in very nicely to a quote from John Smith himself, who said, all we ask is the opportunity to serve our country. And I think that sentiment rings very true and people should bear it in mind going forward.
It's a wonderful way to end our little interview, Stuart. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this session, please note that we have many more of these sessions planned throughout the coming months. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram to make sure to not miss them. And as I said previously, if you like to keep up with our work, just subscribe to our newsletter and to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. We would also love to know how you like this first session of Where Are the Interns Now? And we would be grateful if you could fill in just a really, really quick survey to answer a couple of questions, which would be really helpful. So thank you very much to you, Stuart, for joining us today. And thank you very much to our viewers for spending your lunch break with us. Until next time, have a good day and bye for now.